delay.
Good evening, everyone. I have 6 o'clock, so I'm going to go ahead and call to order the last meeting of the year for the Special Education Citizens Advisory Committee. I'm Jamie Shoplin, the chair, and I have Tara Capps here, who is our vice chair. I want to start by letting everyone know about a membership update, which is that Mara Macarola decided to resign due to family commitments. I also want to congratulate our student members who are moving on to college. So we have Jake Maeli and who is not with us? Janelle could not be here this evening because I think she's starting a new job. But congratulations to all of you for moving on, and we've appreciated very sincerely your participation and your voices in this committee. And we did have a few student applicants, so we're excited to connect with them, but they will have very big shoes to fill. So congratulations on your future endeavors. And we do have with us tonight a guest speaker, Katie Kober. So when we move into that portion of our agenda, she will be sharing some information on cerebral palsy. She's an FCC adjunct professor and owner of Amber Hill Therapies. We do have some observances that I want to make folks aware of, which is that for this month we have coming up rather between May and June, Aphasia Awareness Month, Tourette Syndrome Awareness Month, and Helen Keller Deafblind Awareness Week. So that you are aware of all of these awareness activities within the disability community. We did have our annual strategic retreat on May 10th, and I want to extend a special thanks to Dr. Bingman, Director Buckley, and Board Member Allen for participating with us in that event. It gave us a lot of great context and content to jump off of in terms of starting to form our early recommendations for the Board of Education coming later this year. So thank you so much. We have, let's see, I'll share some dates that have been set for the CCAC public meetings for the next school year, our 25-26 school year. That'll come later on a slide. And then we do have some information that we'll work through this evening in terms of some substantive proposed bylaws changes. And aside from that, I wanted to just take a few moments to reflect on the year that we've all been together and what we've accomplished together. This committee has seen significant change, and it is with all of the support and energy that you have poured into this year. We've, with Laura's help and many others, streamlined a lot of the administration and operations of the committee and making information more readily available, getting better communications out to our committee members. Jen Wheat, our treasurer, who could not be here this evening, has really taken us to another level in terms of understanding, and Andrea's getting up to speed on all of that, how we're funded through the LAF grant and the different categories that CCAC can leverage its funding for. And we've established some recurring connecting points with our county, our FCPS partners to help guide us through the use of the $2,500 that we receive each grant cycle. And we've really started to forge some more strategic partnerships with our special education leadership team here, Dr. Bingman, Directors Keller and Buckley, having recurring monthly seeks with them to better understand and align and support what their strategic goals are around special education. And we've started reaching out into other areas of the community, including with FCTA, partnering with them to see how we can get some anonymous feedback from our educators in terms of what they're seeing, as well as support staff, SCIAs, and others. We have started to establish a presence on the CSAC meetings with Brooke's support, getting us all the CCACs across the state better plugged into the CSAC happenings at the state level. And we've started holding more collaborative workshops to really formulate what how we come together to make recommendations to our Board of Education partners, which we will continue on as we get ready for December later in this year. We also increased our presence at some events beyond just our resource fair, which without Tara's leadership and Stacy and many others here could not have gone off as well as it did. We received nothing but positive feedback with how that event went off this year. So I want to take a moment and just thank you and Sarah and the entire events subcommittee for all of the work that you poured into that as our premier event. All right, so we will continue to build on that, and we also had a presence at World of Possibilities Disability Fair. We were there at the FCPS Family Resource Center grand opening and helped support and establish a presence at the Adaptive Halloween event that was held last year. So it was a great dinosaur theme. There was also some evolution in terms of how we're onboarding members. So we held a meet and greet to help new members understand how the committee operates, the subcommittee structure, and that sort of thing. So we'll continue on in that vein as we look to fill the vacancies for this committee for this next school year. So thank you all for working through a lot of the changes that the committee has gone through over the last year, and it's been really a pleasure to chair this committee and to have your support. So I really appreciate that. All right, so with that, we will move into our approval of minutes. So we have two sets of minutes that we need to approve this evening, March 24th, 2025, as well as April 28th, 2025, which have all been sent around. Is there a motion to approve these minutes as submitted? Would you like? Yes. Okay, Sarah moves to approve the minutes as submitted. All those in favor, please raise your hand. We're doing the count. Anybody?
Actually, we probably go into
Oh, we only have 15.
yeah,
Okay. All right.
Voting members.
Oh, okay. Who are we missing? Melissa and.
Melissa, Joanna, and Bob.
Okay, sorry, I thought everybody was here. So we will come back to that, hopefully. All right, so let's move on to our guest presenter, Katie Cover. She's going to talk to us about cerebral palsy, and we will get your presentation.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate it. So I'm a board certified specialist in pediatric physical therapy. I'm part of Amber Hill, and I'm also an adjunct professor at FCC in their neurological rehabilitation program for their PTAs. So I do lecture on this for 3 hours straight. I have condensed it greatly, but I am happy to answer any questions anybody has. So you can feel free to stop me at any point. But I've been doing this since 2009. I've had my board certification since 2019. There's only 52 of us in the state of Maryland. There's only 2,274 in the country. So it's just it doesn't have to be. You don't have to be to treat pediatrics. It's just an extra certification that you can go through. There's testing, and then there is ways that you have to maintain that clinical certification. I work for Amber Hill and have been there since 2011. We have 6 locations, but our pediatrics is focused in our Urbana-Monrovia location because that's where I am and that's where I'm directing our other staff there. All right, so I do treat birth up. So I definitely have adults with cerebral palsy and other maybe intellectual disabilities where maybe they're not feeling that like they fit in at a typical outpatient place, and so sometimes we will take on those cases as well. We see a variety of diagnoses. Cerebral palsy is one of our most common ones, but Down syndrome, genetic disorders, other brain injuries, and we're really looking at what developmental skills are we missing, are we challenged by, that we can increase for them. And then I always spend some time telling them, our patients and our parents, the difference between school and outpatient, because school has to focus on the educational model and how they are accessing their educational environment. That has to be the focus of school PT. Outside of that, we can work in a medical model. So we can do some more personal goals. We can work on if at school it is safest to be in certain equipment, but we can work outside of that equipment in outpatient setting, but that might not be the safest in school. And so we educate on that, as well as endurance for different activities. Maybe they want to participate in a certain sport, working on pain management if that is a big issue, on missed milestones, and other patterns. Because I treat for the lifespan, I'm always looking to see what patterns in either our alignment or our ability do I need to fix now to avoid surgical intervention later. And so that is why it is helpful to treat the whole lifespan, because you see what keeps coming up for people. Now, cerebral palsy in general occurs secondary to damage to the brain, either in utero or slightly after. It's one of the most common diagnoses we see. The diagnosis alone does not tell me much, though. And so it can really range. It is on, much like autism or things like that, is on a spectrum of severity and symptoms. So even where the brain is damaged can impact the symptoms and severity, but an MRI alone really does not give me all my information. I have seen horrible MRIs with kids that can skip and jump. So that really doesn't give me a whole lot. So it is very much a clinical diagnosis. So we have to look at what the child can do and then adapt accordingly to that. It can be missed right at birth. So unless, we know there was a time where they were without oxygen, we can miss it. We can miss it at first because babies don't move that much. And so when we have somebody that's premature or something like that, we do start following them and watching them. And so we can see if any neurological issues pop up. We're looking for asymmetries in movement, if they're not hitting their milestones, things like that. And I also always love to point out that cerebral palsy is not progressive. So it is not a disease that is progressive over time. It's just that daily life gets harder. And sometimes we need help to keep pushing for those challenges. But they're not getting worse. The CP, like the brain damage that's there, that's what's there. They're not getting worse, it's just different challenges are coming up. And if there's any delay in milestones, we try to work closely with infants and toddlers. Often we are seeing infants and toddlers, seeing them in the home, we're seeing them in outpatient, so we work really hard to make sure that those milestones are being met, and that we are reducing impact early. So if we can make correct and efficient motor plans early on, we have less issues later in life. If they go a long time without treatment, they develop different patterns, different motor plans, things like that, that are then harder later to necessarily get rid of or make more efficient. And so we really take each patient individually, take them through what milestones are appropriate for their age or their ability, and see where we can be of assistance. There's different types of cerebral palsy, so not everybody will look the same, and it really depends on what part of the brain was damaged. So in the cortex, that bigger part, we often have spastic cerebral palsy. That is most common. That is probably what's most familiar to people. They'll have really stiff, tight muscles, but it can still range from a child that can jump, skip, and a child that is completely wheelchair bound. So even within the types, there is different severity. Athetoid happens in the basal ganglia, and that is uncontrolled movements. We're asking for one thing and we're kind of moving in the completely different direction. And then ataxic, which is in the cerebellum, and that is our balance center. And so anytime we have damage in that cerebellum, we're gonna have balance and coordination issues. And often those kids are gonna have a wide base of support, and they may be walking around. They're some of my best fallers because they can pop right back up. But there's a lot of balance issues. And then you can have mixed. And those, I know that those don't all add up to 100%. There can be combinations of both. There can be people that are classified as one, but as they grow, they figure out it's a different one. And then not only is it part of the brain, but it can affect different limbs. So it could be just the legs, it could be just one half of the body, it could be the full body, and then severity in each limb then can also be. So it is, I try to get my intake people up front to give me a general idea of maybe some of the child's abilities so that I'm prepared for them, because when I hear cerebral palsy alone, I actually have no idea whether they're walking in or rolling in. So I have no idea what's gonna happen. There are a lot of associated complications. Not everybody will have them, but pain is a big one. Intellectual disability is in about half. Seizures can be common, really common. Speech and language issues, very, very common, whether it's expressive or receptive, or it could be both. Visual impairments, a lot of sleep disorders. I think that 20% is probably low. Bladder issues, hearing impairment, hip dysplasia is a big one that I'm always watching for because of the way the body can really be spastic and stiff. It can physically turn those bones inward, and then that requires surgical intervention. And then there is just general behavioral issues that go along with that as well. This is one of our classification scales that we use in cerebral palsy, and what it does is really help us kind of identify where somebody is, and it also, I think, is a nice picture for other people to see. You have somebody that is classified as having cerebral palsy but is running and jumping but has maybe a little bit of limited balance and coordination. You could have somebody that maybe just has some issues with maybe doing stairs or needs some physical assistance here and there. Other kids that definitely need equipment to be safe and move around. And then in those other levels, you know, we can have all the way to level 5 where that person is completely wheelchair bound. And so we are just looking at, you know, lots of times we're still putting them in standards to promote bone health. But as far as like ability for that person to move individual muscles, that can be really challenging. Fortunately, there are different adaptive equipment, which the school does a really great job with, as far as like finding things where they can still be interacting in their educational environment, whether that be with different switches that maybe they can use, the eye gaze technology as far as speech and language. So for those that are not able to like individually access equipment, those can be some options. And then just, it looks different for every single kid. So I would say most, if not all children would benefit from physical therapy. If they're able to access their educational environment, it might not be something that's included on their IEP. And so outpatient would really be the only setting then where it would be appropriate. Severity can range greatly. Complications can vary, but it's not progressive. It's the other things and the other challenges in life, or potentially the other additional complications that can maybe vary where they are. In general, what, as far as like their level of independence with maybe running, walking, what they hit around 5 or 6 usually kind of continues along. Now sometimes as they get older and we're going farther distances or things like that, we may need to bring in other equipment to assist with that. But in general, because it is not progressive, we kind of stay, once we hit that 5, 6 area, we kind of go along that same route. Like if they were able to do stairs, they likely will continue to be able to do stairs in most familiar places. And then, you know, we both feel that, you know, I always want to make sure we have individual goals. If they're, you know, some people come in and they're like, I don't know, I just want them to move. But we really try to nail down what the child wants to be able to do, what the parents want to be able to do, and how that works in the family. If they're hikers, then, we're trying to figure out ways to make that work. If they're going to go to an amusement park, all right, we got to work on endurance. We got to be able to get in and out of these rides, so that the parent is not constantly lifting. And then we do a lift training with the parents if needed as well, so that they are safe, because if they can't take care, you're limited. You're limited in who can assist with that, as far as babysitters and others in the community, because they're not as familiar. And then, we really work hard to work with, any school therapists, the infants and toddlers program, and always educating them on the difference between the two. I will get IEPs all the time, and I go, it looks great. Like, we are working under two different models. So we have to recognize that we have two different things going on. And so if you have other goals, then maybe we can address that here. Or we've had incidents where I can't address that. That is a school goal. We'll have to bring that up at the IEP meeting. So, anybody have any questions about cerebral palsy? Anything like that? Yes.
First of all, wonderful presentation. I have cerebral palsy myself, so when you were talking about how it's diagnosed and all the things that people are looking for, I was like, wow, this is a lot like me. I was kind of freaking out a little bit, but I guess my question is for patients with cerebral palsy that are able to talk about their conditions and what they want. How do you guys make sure that their concerns are being met, as well as what the parents want to see out of them?
So a lot of times in our setting, so parents are often part of the initial eval and maybe some of the beginning sessions, but then there are times where if the family is comfortable with that, we'll allow the parents to either be in the lobby or things like that, so that I can sometimes draw out more what they are looking for, what excites them, what is going to motivate them to do this for the long haul. I've had kids that they really wanted to be able to jump rope at school and not have to have an accommodation. Okay, let's go. That wouldn't necessarily come up maybe with the parent, or they don't want to be behind everybody else in PE. And so sometimes I'll contact the PE teacher and be like, can you give me an approximation or a couple weeks head notice for each unit, so that I can prep them, so that when they go in there, they feel confident that they can go in there. Especially some of our kids that really don't want the accommodations, and I get that. I get that you don't want to, you don't want them, and so I'm trying to prep them ahead of time for what we might, what they're doing in PE, so that they do feel like they can go in. And then the accommodations are there if they need them, but they might choose not to use them.
That's awesome.
Any other questions? Zoe?
Do you have a number of staff that you would like at the school that are lift trained?
Would I like a number at the school?
How many people would you like to be trained in, if there's a student at that school? How many would you like to be trained in that, if they need help with the bathroom?
Well, I think that probably depends on the school and who is able-bodied enough to do it too, because I think you would, depending on how big, I definitely do 2 and 3 people lifts at my clinic all the time, because we just want to be safe for our bodies. So, I'm thinking you need at least 4 or 5 if you have somebody that is completely dependent. Now, if you have somebody with much less severity, then, they may only need somebody to the correct handrails in the bathroom, and then somebody to maybe assist with clothing management or bracing a little bit. So that would really depend on the severity of the students that are there. I'm sure at places like Rock Creek, you have much more people trained, I would hope, because there's much more, but you also have the lifts there as well. But it really depends on how severe they are and how heavy. So usually I would say you do not want to be lifting more than 50 pounds. So if they weigh 100 pounds, you need at least 2 people.
Any other questions?
This is more of like a system question. I was just curious how many of our, like what percentage of our population is identified as having CP, and I don't know, I was just curious how many students in schools this affects in our system.
So in the special ed world, obviously you could get an IEP if you have CP, but that is not a special education eligibility. And so it might be other health impairment. So we don't necessarily, I wouldn't have a number off the top of my head. Sometimes we might be able to pull, but it wouldn't be based on our special ed labels.
Yeah, I definitely have several, like, very, on the more mild side where we're really just dealing with a 504.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the other, I know a number of our students that just,
Or sometimes the 504s only comes up, so like we just enacted one because they had surgery. And so we needed to make accommodations post-surgical that will then be removed once we finish rehabbing from the surgery. So even though that intellectual disability is about 50%, I mean, I have a ton of individuals that they are completely in a regular classroom, and there's just those 504 accommodations if they need them. They have access to them. So maybe if they needed a little bit more time to get to, maybe their locker could be located in a different location to make it easier for them to get around, things like that.
Good question. Any other questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. And then please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions.
Okay, so we do now have a quorum, so let's go back to Sarah's motion to approve the minutes as submitted, and that would be for March and April of 2025. So all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Any opposed? Any abstention? One opposed?
No. Sorry.
Oh, okay, all right, no worries, John. All right, so no opposed and no abstention, so that should be 18, Laura? Okay. All right,
Who seconded?
Who seconded Sarah's motion?
somebody else?
Yeah.
Thank you.
There you go.
Okay, well, we'll work on our Roberts rules, we're a little rusty, clearly. Okay, so we're gonna move into our Board of Education liaison comments from Board Member Allen. Anything you'd like to share this evening?
Yeah, so on Friday, May 16th, Rock Creek School had their graduation.
Wonderful.
So I was given the honor of speaking, which was very nice. And we had 5 graduates, and Katie and Dr. Bingham and Mr. Keller helped me remember all the names. So we had Nate, Abby, Mikey, Alex, and Jake. And it was really a very, very nice ceremony. I mean, the school and the staff do such a nice job for these students in celebrating them and recognizing them, and you know, the families were there. It's just really, I don't know. It's a good moment. It's a good moment.
That's wonderful.
But
Anything
that's
else?
it.
Okay,
No.
excellent. Thank you. All right, so we'll move to our special education comments from our directors. Pull it up.
Good evening. I know it's beautiful weather and it's gonna rain again on Wednesday, so pull back out your pants and sweaters because we're gonna be at a high of 50. Super exciting news, and we shared this at our CCAC retreat this past weekend. But in regards to our CCAC, or our parent involvement survey, we are now at our target in regards to our school-age families, which is amazing. That's one of our performance plan indicators. So you can see there it's 12% right now for school-age, where our target is 9%. We still need a couple more in our pre-K realm, so if we could encourage all families, but particularly pre-K families at this time, to submit that survey. The link is there as well with the QR code. And then what's most important is that we take that feedback and use it to improve our practices here. So if you want to just share that message with those that you're supporting, we would greatly appreciate that.
our IEP system update. So I was actually looking at data. We have we anticipate to have over 800 people get trained this summer, and we have 700 people signed up so far. So super excited about that. We have differentiated PL based on roles and needs, and so that's why it looks kind of different throughout the PL that we're offering. Some of it's not just to learn the new system, some of it's also to get back to what are the expectations of when you write an IEP as a service provider here in FCPS. And so we'll also even be rolling out supports for parents since we have a new platform. And so we're ramping up for that. And then the other thing, of course, is ESY. And so if you tune into Wednesday's board presentation, Dr. Bingman's going to give an update on ESY. We anticipate to have about 1,000 students if they were all to attend. It typically doesn't look like our attendance though, but we have 1,000 students that have their IEP have been approved to receive ESY services if they would like to choose to do so. Some previous updates that we had, at the beginning of May, I did a presentation on our FBA and BIP process here. For those that have not heard those acronyms before, that is a functional behavior assessment and a behavior intervention plan. And that process is available for our students that may be exhibiting challenged behavior in our school setting that's impeding their learning or the learning of others. And so we have staff that go through a full day professional learning as a team to learn how to conduct a functional behavior assessment, which ultimately it helps them develop what is called an evidence-based behavior intervention plan. And so in the world of behavior, they're really in the grand scheme of it, you're either trying to avoid things or you're trying to obtain things. And so there are evidence-based interventions that we actually teach staff on how to teach students replacement behaviors. And so we go through that. We have about 1,200 students that actually have BIPs in their IEPs. And so we provided that update. And then what else did we do, Katie?
So then we talk a little bit about our new FCPS Rise.
And then, for those that don't know Rise of course is available at Whittier for our elementary students, and then we also have a program at Vermont Middle. And the elementary program is going to open up with about 10 students next year. They have a couple right now. And then our Thurmont Middle School, we hired a teacher, and so that one will be opening up with a number of students as well. And then, of course, our staffing and our ongoing audit updates are available for you all to view as well.
We have a question from Tara.
I have a question, Troy. How would we find out who our FBA, BIP trained folks are at our school locations, at the sites we're at?
You can ask the case manager or administrator.
They should have that information.
All of our special education teachers are invited to go. They all may not choose to be a part. That's all really up to the school team. But we have a list. They sign up, and then we offer monthly training. And so they can go for a refresher. A lot went last year. Some came for refreshers this year. We also offer technical assistance for teams that don't have BCBAs on staff.
Awesome. And in the rollout over the summer, I know you guys have a lot planned for staff. I know that there'll be training and opportunities for parents. When should we look for announcements to come out through School Messenger to sign up for that parent information training onboarding for EdPlan?
So we right now are in the throes of testing the website and seeing what updates. Once that's kind of taken care of, we'll have an idea. Likely dates will probably be advertised at the beginning of the year, because since you won't be using the system right away, there won't necessarily be anything to access. So be really ready to see a lot more available come September, where we can start showing parents how to log in and access information.
Okay.
So as they get those.
So as the school year starts, late August and then into September. Sweet. Thank you.
Laura.
On May 13th, the Frederick News Post reported that there would be databases used to have school pass cards, and I was wondering, in addition to what was said to the Post, it gives us another data point to share with students and their families, and these are at the pilot schools. Could you please help me to understand the outcome of what data is being tracked for special education students using this Hall Pass system?
So the Hall Pass is not necessarily under the special education team umbrella. It was something that some of the secondary teams tried out, and it's more of like a hall pass, like if you need to go to the restroom or you're going to another classroom, that data is tracked. I know that some of the schools that have done pilots this year, 504 teams did use that kind of like as a way to, like if there is a check-in for a teacher, that was an easier way for them to pull the data. To have like how often do you access this accommodation, but it's not necessarily correlated to the IEP or 504 right now. It would be another data point if teams choose to use that. But right now it's all based on if a school has money in their school funds to purchase that. I imagine not a lot of elementary programs are going to do that route, or secondary, based on what I've learned about the hall pass system.
Okay, because Ms. Nayar said that she added in the part of the individualized education plan, teams are using the database at the pilot schools to see when students have been out of class, and that it gives us another data point to share with students and their families. So thank you for helping clarify that.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something that, if you all are not encouraging the hall pass system for that use, it's curious that data is being collected for that is special education related, or at least according to this Frederick News Post article, right?
Well, I mean, if you look at an IEP goal, there's so many different ways to collect data. So, I mean, if that's what a school team chooses to collect data, they have that right to do so. It's just not a special ed data tool, is really what we're saying.
Okay.
Would it be more of looking at, like, say a child has a lot of the secondary schools call it a chill pass, where they can say, I need a break from life, give me my 10 minutes. It would be a data point where if an instructor gave them their chill pass, it would be tracked, noting it was a chill pass or not just a hall pass to the restroom, to give a data point of how often that accommodation's being used. Is that maybe what they're referring to, something like that?
I think what she was trying to highlight from what I've learned about the system is it basically is a twofold approach. One, it's the hall pass to let any staff member know that this child had a right to go to this classroom, and then obviously if they had a 504 IEP, they could pull the data versus tracking the data somewhere else. So I think that was what Dr. Mearshaw was trying to highlight, was that it has multiple opportunities beyond just being something like a hall pass, like I can go to the restroom. To y'all's point, there's other ways that you could pull the data to see.
Is EdPlan intending to capture the check-in and check-out, or the push-in and pull-out, like the timing around those things, or how is that?
No, honestly, we would have to follow up more because that we didn't sit on any of the pilots.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's more aimed at just general, where kids are in the building at a given time.
Any staff member
How to identify if someone.
that you were able to leave this classroom and go to another classroom.
Okay.
Anything else? Go ahead. Another question, excuse me, about the RISE program. Is there any different consideration for a student to be eligible for that program than there was from the previous RISE program, Shepherd?
Yes, that's a good point. So this is our own FCPS program, and so just like any student, if they are not making progress in their current setting, it could be a consideration if it's appropriate. The RISE program is geared towards individuals that typically have autism, but the major characteristics is not based on disability, it's based on you have some executive functioning concerns, so like being able to follow multi-step directions. Also, you have functional communication, meaning you can communicate your wants and needs clearly, but you're now working on that social communication piece of being able to exchange higher level conversations with your peers, being able to maintain those relationships, being able to have perception taking, perspective taking. And so those are skills that they'll work on. And then also, if they do need a self-contained environment, they would have that opportunity to be with their special educator all day long if need be. But a lot of those students are already spending time in inclusion.
And what are the grade levels that are at the elementary level?
Right now they have 3rd through 5th.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you. All right, let's move to Partners for Success updates.
So we have an event coming up in June. It's the last day of school, June 12th. It's an awareness baseball game. So we shared that with families today through School Messenger, and it filled up, I think, within like 15 minutes. I think we had about 150 to 200 tickets, so it went really fast, but we're excited.
I think so. It's, I guess, a program that the Orioles do every year that I just go ahead and throw my hand in and see if they'll donate tickets to us. And so they don't give us like the same amount every year. I think this year we got a little bit more than we did last year, which is great. But it's something fun, and I know that families have really enjoyed it in past years when we've done it. So I do continue to applying for it every year if we get it. So we have a lot of work to do this summer. We are going to try very hard to create a schedule, like a glance at a year schedule for the next fiscal school year, so that we have it pre-planned and like kind of ready to share with families so that they can take a look at what's going to be available throughout the year and plan for it. And then we have been meeting with Carly Parsons to do more IEP stuff, as we mentioned last year, and Matthew Blazik to do as well more information about behavioral plans. And then we have been meeting with City Youth Matrix, and we plan to do stuff with City Youth Matrix this next school year. They offer a lot of services for students and activities and different kind of things, so really excited about that partnership. But right now we don't have too many updates, just that we're going to be planning a lot, and so if you guys have any suggestions about what you would like to see next year, or things that you know you've participated in that you've enjoyed that you'd like to do again, or things that maybe you would like to see more of or need more education of, we'd love to hear your feedback and get that as we're planning out for this next school year.
Great. I think the year in a calendar will be helpful, just so folks know what's coming. That'll be posted on the Partners for Success?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's hear from Brooke Schmidt, our representation from CSAC.
Awesome. Thank you guys for linking that in there. That makes it easy. So anybody who wants to review, linked in the agenda, is the presentation from our joint CSAC meeting that we had last week. Thank you all for everybody that joined. I love having Frederick County on there. Our state's a little disappointed if I don't have people from Frederick County on there, so thank you. We kind of went over, one of the things the state wanted us to do was, and one of the things a lot of the CCACs, not necessarily us, but a lot of the other CCACs were looking for was really kind of support and guidance on just general operations, how to do their bylaws, what to do with their budget. So that whole meeting was really focused on presentations around that and some ideas and guidance and best practices coming down from the state on how CCAC should be operating. And then Dr. Hickman also did an update on the blueprint recommendations from the Special Education Work Group, which has been an ongoing trickle down. So there was a review on that, which is linked in here. And then some of the other key point was we also have it's not really a portal. There is a resource bucket on PPMD's website that was a partnership between the Parents Place of Maryland and MSDE to house all of the CSAC documents so that we're not having to jump through hoops to house them on MSDE's website, which takes 20 different go-betweens of hoops to get it on there, whereas PPMD's website, I just upload it and it's really simple and short. So right now there are already, there's a guide on there that was also created by myself and our Director of Communications at the Parents Place for CCAC operations and best practices, and then there are some sample bylaws and sample budgets that are on there as well, and then that will now start housing all of these presentations for all the next school year from all of the CSAC. So if you guys aren't able to make the meetings because they are in the middle of the workday for a lot of people, they're from 10 to noon typically. So if you miss those meetings, you'll be able to go to PPMD's website and download all the presentations, hopefully in a much quicker, accessible format than what they have been in the past. And then moving forward, we don't have dates set for next year. I'll send them out once we do, but we do plan on, one of the things that came up in the meeting was that a lot of the CCACs would like to have another meeting like we did joint meeting, but just an opportunity to kind of network and talk. So we're trying to plan that for August, much like we have our August meet and greet here. We're trying to do that on a virtual format for the whole state, for everybody to have an opportunity to kind of network and learn from each other before the start of the school year.
Any questions? Highly recommend taking a look at the blueprint update. It does a nice way of summarizing the recommendations that came out of that work group. And thank you, Brooke. Okay, subcommittee reports. So Jen Wheat is not here this evening. In terms of our budget, we have a couple of line items that need to be spent down, and we know, I believe, how we're going to spend the remaining funds that we have. So one is membership name tags, and the other is for the event that Tara will talk about later. All right, membership update. We are in the process of, we closed our application period on the 15th of May. So we are now moving into getting through all of the final scoring of the few applicants that came in towards the end of the application period. We're setting up virtual 30-minute informational sessions for folks who want to join, who scored high on this rubric that we created to help provide some more consistency in terms of how membership applications are evaluated. So those are going to be going on in the next couple of weeks, and once we get through that, if they are excited about what we're up to here as a committee, and they understand a little bit more about what they would be walking into in terms of a 2-year term, and then we'll move forward and we'll announce all of the new members that will be part of CCAC at our August meeting, as we have done in the past. We have, like I said, a couple of student members, staff members, plenty of parent folks who have applied, and a few community members. Anything else I'm missing, Laura, of importance? Okay. So that is the membership update. The events committee.
So Dr. Amy sends her regards. All the hood happenings with graduation, she was one of the lucky ones that got COVID. So we're very sad to announce that she's homesick, but she sends her regards and has asked me to provide an update. She has created surveys that we'll be sending out through the CCAC Gmail to go to our volunteers, our vendors, and our attendees from the resource fair, and they will be going out. It'll be a Google form that'll be easy to respond on, and then we can get some more feedback regarding that. And then we also met as a committee and discussed how to spend down the remaining, I believe it's $353 exactly, in the contracted presenters line of our budget. That line can only be spent on presenters for events or educational purposes. So the committee met and would like to make a motion for the event committee to use the remaining funds, approximately $350, in the contractor presenters line of the budget to pay Parents Place of Maryland to present a virtual event with the topics being advocating as a parent, a student, and tips and tools for the summer. It would be a virtual event happening in the month of June. Does anybody have any questions about that or for discussion?
So we have a motion. Is there a second?
Oh, I didn't know.
So Stacy, second. So now.
You guys have any
discussion?
questions about that whole idea and how we got there, or you trust us to roll on?
So this is end of June,
Sometime during the month of June.
PPMD, to expend the rest of our funds.
Yep, it would expend the rest of our funds. It would be open to anyone. It'd be virtual, based on feedback from Isa and Grace. That's the way they've been getting the highest amount of response and attendance. And we thought that would be most flexible for our community. And lowest impact on us during a month where we're not usually superly active.
Yes, we don't have a lot of comms support right now, so we do want to make sure we have some kind of communication approach for advertising
Yes.
this.
And Joanna's not here tonight, but she reached out, because she's on the events committee. She would be willing to support making flyers or helping from the comm side of things, to partner with the events committee to make that happen, or to support us. And Issa and Mary Grace said they would send things through School Messenger, which parents still get up until July 1st, where things reset and you re-sign up for your next year.
Would PPMD advertise it too? Okay.
And it would not be Brooke presenting, it would be,
That would be a conflict.
it would be,
Clarify, it will be my boss, not
it
me.
will be her boss. Brooke is not,
As much as I would love to do it.
Brooke is a member of the events committee, but she is not the one that would be doing the presenting.
Okay. Any questions, comments, concerns? Okay, so we'll close the discussion and we'll move to a vote. So all those in favor of moving forward with the motion to partner on a virtual event with PPMD at the end of June, please raise your hand. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And John, do you have your hand up or no? Okay, 17. And then all those opposed? Anyone opposed? Abstention? Are you abstaining or are you opposing? We do have to count your vote.
I'm in for it.
Okay, John's in for it, so that's 18.
I got it, 18.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Other than making that motion, I just wanted to let everybody know, we attended the World of Possibilities Disability Fair this past weekend. Myself, Amy, and Laura tag teamed at the event, and we were able to meet people from all over the state, and lots of folks were excited to learn about what we do, and a lot of them that were from outside of Frederick County were excited to know that there should be a CCAC in their county and how they could find out who they were. So that was really awesome to be able to say this is a resource you have in your county as well. And we gave a lot of information out about Issa and Mary Grace, and that they have counterparts in other counties, because this was for the whole western region. So we actually had people from Virginia, Washington County, West Virginia. We also had folks from Frederick County, Carroll County. So it wasn't just a Frederick County event, but it was wonderful, and it was a really great day. We got to meet a lot of really exciting folks.
There's one more motion.
And there's one more motion. That's what I was gonna say, I've got one more. I came stacked today, folks, with lots to talk about. I know I'm usually so quiet. The other item is, if you were at the retreat, you heard a little bit about this idea, but Jamie and I have been very interested in how we can hear more from our community, so that we can make sure the things that we're focusing on and the things that we're recommending, we're hearing from all of the folks that we are representing. So I would like to make a motion that we plan and host listening sessions for FCBS special education families during this summer. That's the motion. Do I have a second?
Is there a second? Brooke seconds. Lots of people are seconding, but we'll go.
Lots of seconds.
Okay, we'll open it up for discussion. Go ahead.
When you say listening sessions, Tara, what for? Just generally, or is it for any specific?
Yes, so it would be a time where students, their families, teachers, or community members could come and speak about what they are passionate about that's happening with FCPS, what questions they may have, what resources they're looking for. So we, as CCAC, could learn directly from our community in a less indirect way what their needs are, so that we could make sure we're considering everyone who's willing to speak up.
Yes. So we have.
No, I was just curious.
Yeah, it's a great question. And
I love your questions.
We have the voice of all of those lenses on this committee. We want to get out to more of those lenses. So it would be a series of listening sessions. We would host them around the county. We would look to have somebody, probably at libraries across the county, but have somebody in that community kind of partner with us. If the PTA is functioning and they're willing to work with us, find somebody else So I'm in Urbana. I will try to bring all the Urbana people. She is
I'm
in
in the Brunswick feeder, so I can reach out
So
to the Western
making
Brunswick
sure
County.
that we're getting around the entire county so that we can get more direct feedback from all of the folks that are impacted by special education. And what we want to do with that is turn it into this feedback loop, turn it into some potential recommendations that we might make to the Board of Ed later on this year. Corby, you had a question.
I was just gonna wonder, so are these gonna be like formal sessions where people are only allowed to speak for a couple of minutes, or are they gonna be more informal, just to get, listening to all the concerns or all the questions that people have? Like, do we have a structure for what that would look like?
We have, I mean, I certainly have ideas. I would lean towards the more informal session, just we want to make it a safe space. We want people to feel comfortable sharing and talking. So I imagine Post-it notes getting put up, and you know, what are you seeing? What are you thinking? What are you feeling? What are you hearing? And then we can kind of synthesize the information that we collect from there. But we're totally open to any ideas.
And if any of you are interested in working on this over the summer, you know how to reach us.
Yes.
But the
Brooke
idea
is gonna help.
Brooke's interested in helping. The idea is for it to be free form, so if like Corby came and she was willing to speak in front of whomever about her experience, that's great. But if Amy came and she's like, I'd like to fill out some few Post-its and put it on the wall, maybe ask some questions to get conversations, but something where people can just come and share their experience or come learn more about what goes on in Frederick County.
Any other discussion?
Did you all get to talk about protecting staff and student confidentiality?
I would assume we would, this is me assuming that we would make some kind of statement at the beginning that we're not here to speak about specific names or individuals, specific schools, but to talk in generality, so we're not saying Troy Keller did this, or Tara Holleran did this. Oh, yes.
More about students.
That we
Sure.
wouldn't want to share.
If
that
there's some
private
specific
information.
language that you can guide
Yeah,
us that we
sure.
can state, we would be happy to do that.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing attention to that.
Yeah,
That is
of
important.
course.
All right, if there's no further discussion, let's go ahead and vote. So all those in favor of hosting listening sessions around the county over the summer? We have one. All right, so it looks like everyone is in favor, which means there's no opposed and no abstentions. Thank you for that support.
And then the
Anything else?
only other thing I have is to say, as Jamie did earlier, I just wanted to wrap up the year saying that like the events year has been very different this year. We changed the date of our events fair. We're trying to do more in support and at events that Partners for Success is happening. We're looking at doing things differently than we've done before, adding in our volunteers, having a volunteer coordinator, or doing stuff directly working with our staff. I want to thank everyone for all of the work that they did, and for all of you for coming along for the ride, for all of the ideas our committee had. And I'm just so glad they were successful. And thank you for being part of that.
Wonderful. All right. So I don't think we have anything from the communications subcommittee. Do we have anything from Student Voices?
So my primary concern was just making sure we had students to fill the void of myself and Janelle and Maeli, and thank you to membership for doing that.
Two of them are from Urbana.
And they're twins.
They're twins. Okay.
Jake, you might want to ask for a referral bonus or something.
Right.
Well, I know I was like, oh, join CCAC, but I didn't go out of my way to do anything like that. So that's on you guys, so great job. And hopefully we can diversify from schools a little bit. Even just having Janelle from Tuscarora was huge. She had a lot of very good insights, and I'm looking forward to seeing how the committee can continue that when I'm gone. But in terms of anything we're actually doing, not much, because most of school right now is kind of over it and ready to be done and move on.
Graduate.
So I will save some of my more personal comments for the actual student member comments, but in terms of the Student Voices Subcommittee, we are just looking forward to next year.
Awesome. We're excited for you. All right, so bylaws. We do have some proposed substantive amendments. We did host a session if people wanted to show up and learn what we were recommending in terms of bylaws amendments. So some of the things that we're looking at is to potentially reduce the committee size from 31 to 25. It's been very difficult to maintain a committee the size of 31, and we've struggled over the past several committee meetings to establish a quorum, and we almost didn't have quorum this evening. So we're recommending that we reduce the size of the committee. That'll make it a little bit more manageable, and we hope that that will also address some of our challenges with the quorum that we need to maintain in order to conduct business as a committee. We also wanted to clarify some language around voting and non-voting members. So the CAS representation would move to a non-voting member and would be a recurring voice within the committee, so we don't have to lose that representation potentially to a 2-year term expiring or what have you, or if staff changes in the middle of the year like we had, Amy coming into us and her colleague departing, so that doesn't sort of throw into flux, vote membership and that sort of thing. We also wanted to add some clarifying language between full when we do have to fill a vacancy, what does that mean? What is a partial term? How do we handle that? What does that look like? It's been a little confusing. We haven't, it hasn't been so easy to know when those partial terms are starting and ending, so clarifying language around that. And then looking to potentially expand the term from 2 years to 3 years and then add term limits. We have, so that we get an influx of all kinds of folks that want to join this committee. And so if we allow for term limits, that allows the membership to cycle and give other people an opportunity to serve and have a voice represented within CCAC. And then also looking to meet August to June. The board meets year-round. We have ESY, so really adding a little bit more to when we meet so that we can cover more of the school year. And also, as we've seen when we're coming back in September and try to have our first meeting, we go right into getting ready for the Board of Education recommendations. So getting us a little bit more runway so that we can better prepare for that and get folks acclimated to the committee who are coming in new with the school year starting up and those sorts of things. There was also an opportunity to clarify the application process and the timeline within the bylaws language, and then clarifying extenuating circumstances for missed meetings, because there was a lot of ambiguity of what that meant. And then we took some language from the Board of Education conflict of interest policy and tried to incorporate that into our bylaws to clarify that a little bit more. Clarify how quorum is established, which is essentially, following Robert's rules, so we don't have a lack of clarity in terms of how many people we need that are voting members as part of the committee in order to conduct business, and then clarifying the non-voting members, which would be our directors of special education, Dr. Bingman, CAS representation, Isa and Grace, who are our Partners for Success colleagues, and our Board of Education member as a liaison but a non-voting member. All right, so of any of these proposed amendments that would be substantive changes to our bylaws, which govern how we as a committee operate, do any of these give you pause or concern, or do you want to talk through in more detail?
The term limits, would we offset those so that So you wouldn't be losing, for example, like the chair and the co-chair at the same time.
That's already part of our bylaws. They're supposed to be staggered terms. So there is some continuity there between the chair and the vice chair. And then I think also for secretary. Jake.
All right, I don't know if this is nitpicky or if anything can be added to this list by this point, but I noticed in our more recent agendas, public comment is saved for last in the meeting, which I'm not 100% sure why that is, because if we have people that are sitting here for public comment, I don't feel like we should make them wait and sit through all of the committee's proceedings before getting on with whatever their comment is. And I'm not sure how it's worked in the past, or if that's a recent change, or if there's any particular reason for that.
That is not dictated in the bylaws.
Okay.
That is, so this committee has done it both ways, and there's pros and cons to both ways of doing it. So if people hear the presentation and the agenda, they might be coming to learn more about that or to understand what's being discussed, and then they may want to make public comment on that, or they may want to make public comment on something that isn't part of the agenda. So it's sort of 6 1/2 dozen of another, and
We've tried it both ways.
we've done
over
it
the
both
last 2
ways,
years.
and we can certainly see how the broader committee feels about that, and we can do a motion if we want to change it and codify that as part of the bylaws. But if you do that, then you are constrained to sticking to that into the future, unless and until the bylaws change again.
Would it be this might be a little too flexible. Would it be possible for us to petition our public commenters and essentially say, what are you here for? You know, to learn about the presentation or to give comment on something that's not related to what we're talking about, and then have them speak from there? Is that something that the committee could do?
The way to make sure that there's structure in the agenda and have an orderly business meeting run, you do want to pick a time, advertise that time so that people know when they need to show up and when they'll have the public comment time slot. And we want to respect whatever it is that they're going to be sharing, and we don't want to sort of pry into or make them feel like we're sort of investigating what they might want to come and talk to us about. So that, I mean, that is their sort of outlet for freedom of speech for whatever they think is relevant to CCAC's mission that they want to bring to us, and it may or may not be related to an agenda item or not. Do you have anything that you would?
I have lived through both things. I would say, as someone who came for a year as a non-member of CCAC and public comment was at the beginning, I often sat here and felt tongue-tied because I had a comment I'd like to make after hearing what was going on in the committee, but I was unable to make comment because the time had lapsed at the beginning. So from that perspective, I think more flexibility is given to the public that attends by having it at the end. I'm not opposed to either way, but like Jamie said, I think we have to pick one or the other because it's advertised in our agenda and it becomes a standard procedure.
And we
But-
do have certain rules that we have to follow
on time
for
limits.
sign up and time limits and all of those things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I get where you're coming from. I think right now, that could be something that gets discussed as we move into the summer and start in the fall. And if people have thoughts about it to share, I think it's good, but
Yeah, I
Yeah.
might not recommend putting it in the bylaws just because what's in the bylaws is what we have to
can't change.
follow. So if we can then have flexibility if we wanted to move it. We
Right
do want
now,
it predictable for the public so that they know when they can show up.
and right now it's more like an operating procedure,
Yeah.
which gives us flexibility because those can be changed without a huge.
And I'm not necessarily one way or the other. I was just curious about it. So thank you guys.
Good question.
Great question.
Claudia.
I had a question on under reducing the size of the committee, and I get it, but would it work like if the bylaws are approved this year, would it work for next year?
Yes.
Would it be until
It would be applied to the next school year with, we would have to sort of probably phase into that. We don't have 31 members today. We have 22, I think.
We're done for now.
So we would, what's that, Laura?
We have 22.
22?
We have not non-voting.
Oh, that's including non-voting?
No, we have 22 voting members.
Okay, 22 voting members today, and some folks' terms are ending. So we'll see, we'll have to see where that leaves us. If we decide to move forward with the 25-person committee, which is similar to some of the other advisory committees that the board has, it would be similarly sized, then we would kind of figure out where to go in terms of new members for next year.
And that would affect the quorum.
Yes, because the number of committee members, typically it's 50% plus one, establishes your quorum in order to conduct business.
So the committee of 31 means we have to have a minimum of 17 people present.
Yes.
So like this year, we've had people who had to leave for personal reasons, so on and so forth. And the quorum is established by the total number of people on your committee, period, not the number of the people the day of the meeting.
Right.
So even though there's only 22 active members right now, our quorum is still 17. By having it be 25, it pulls it more tightly together. And like Jamie said, it also, we researched the other committees, and it's also more reflective of the size of committees throughout the Board of Education committee.
And we'd look to increase our volunteer engagement on our subcommittees to sort of supplement all of the energy that we may be putting in as we lead the committee or participate in our subcommittees, which is required by the bylaws. What other questions do we have or concerns? John?
I'll just say I'm tending to think that I prefer having the same number of members as we have already. And I think I prefer not to increase the term period to more than 2 years.
You're saying you prefer to continue with 31 members? Okay. It's been very difficult to maintain 31 members.
Understand.
And we're also looking to size it so that it is a little bit more manageable and to be similarly sized as other committees, Citizens Advisory Committee, for example.
Are you all updating the, I couldn't pull it up, I'm sorry, I'm sure you all shared it, but I apologize, I can't find it, the actual edits. But I know in the past, one of the hiccups also has been about the membership, and then if you don't attend so many, you're removed anyway. I feel like that's gonna create an issue of having additional meetings, or are you guys changing that portion?
The bylaw, there isn't a proposed change for that, which says that if you miss 3 consecutive meetings, then you would be removed from the committee. Because if you think about it, that's basically a quarter of the business that or a third of the business that we conduct within the year. So you've missed quite a bit if you're missing 3 in a row, which has happened. And we've had a lot of folks who've had to step away for, various personal reasons, things that were beyond their control.
So the bylaws keep that as 3 consecutive, but there was added definition to what extenuating circumstances are. So if you had 3 consecutive, but there were extenuating circumstances for one of those absences, it may not be considered 3. Because that was in there as well, but extenuating circumstances wasn't defined. So does that mean like my kid was sick, I was sick, there was a death in the family, I got stuck in traffic, like what's considered extenuating? So that was further defined to help flesh that part out, because it was a gray area that everybody wasn't sure how to interpret.
Is there consideration for any language? I don't know if it would be bylaws or not, but in the form of attendance, like notification, if you cannot attend the meeting.
That's in the bylaws,
It
yes.
is in the bylaws. Okay.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're expected to send an email to the Gmail account, the CCAC Gmail account, if there will be an absent minutes from a public meeting. And so the extenuating circumstances would be a serious illness or injury, bereavement, unforeseen events like a family emergency that may have arisen. So there would be some clarifying language around that. Because we ourselves were grappling with, well, how do we ensure that this is fairly applied to everyone? There was really not a lot of clarity, and we're also not entirely sure how that was handled in the past. Dawn may have insights into that as a past chair, but it was, we wanted to add clarity for ourselves and for everyone else, and to ensure that that was applied fairly, because we're certain that folks who apply to the committee are good and well-intended, right? Want to come and want to be part of this, but things come up. Any other questions or concerns about what you're seeing?
Can you just go to the second page again?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
Would the June meeting still be the same Monday of
The way the bylaws read, the meeting needs to be the third or fourth Monday of the month. And because we looked at potential dates for 2026, we took into account their proposed end of school year and chose, I believe it was to meet on the third Monday. So it would be a little closer in between May and June, but not so far into the summer that, as I'm throwing pins at Jamie, not so far into the summer that would be, in early July. But with school ending in June, it's a nice way to come together and look at the end of the year. And
I was just thinking about like attendance and going on vacations and stuff like that.
And the dates are set a year. I mean, the dates are already, once we get through this, those dates are waiting to be put and made public.
Yeah, and if we find that we try this out and it doesn't work and nobody attends in June, then we'll revisit it. But we're trying to provide more coverage, across the school year. Most boards and committees that I've been on, they meet year round, because the needs of our special education families, it doesn't stop just because the school year ends, right? Laura?
Have we given any consideration to virtual meetings as per MSD?
Yes, we'll be looking at adding a virtual element next year, but I don't know that, I'm not seeing that as a bylaw change. That's part of the technical assistant bulletin that we already have through the state guidance, so it'd just be complying with that. We can certainly consider that as a bylaw change, but that might be more something we could do as part of a standard operating procedure.
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you for asking that question.
Consider having August and June be more ad hoc to see how many people attend and to see what type of interest you get, just for worry about with attendance being a difficult piece with not having enough people there, just to kind of see how it would go.
We did not consider that.
I like that idea for June, but we had a really great attendance for our August meet and greet, it was not a public meeting. It was just to get new members onboarded, but it was really key in getting everyone on the same page. So I feel, and it's the school year started. I like the idea of maybe that's how we try it in June. So something to consider.
Yeah, I mean, it's publicized a year in advance. Everybody can miss, if that's one of the meetings that you have to miss, but we are trying to shift left how early we can get started on the recommendation process, because having gone through that myself, it's very intense. And I know we want to take that seriously so that the voices that we're here to represent are brought to the board in an effective way. And starting that in September is just too late. And having the retreat in May, we've forgotten what we've even talked about when we come back in a September meeting. Go ahead, Claudia.
No, and I do agree that if there's going to be new people learning what we do and all that, it's very difficult to keep up on drafting recommendation or suggesting even something.
Yes,
Yeah.
we've all.
That would adjustment.
Yes.
So you all are still going to have an ad hoc though for. Or is that going to
The meet and greet?
Yeah, the meet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That would probably be early August, and then
and then we'd have our
first
regular
meeting. Yeah. Okay. Yes, the meet and greet and then the public meeting. All right, so is there any other discussion? Do you want to make a motion to approve these changes?
I would love to. I would like to make a motion to approve the amendments to the bylaws as outlined in these 2 slides and that we just discussed.
So that's reducing the committee size, clarifying our membership types, clarifying full versus partial term scenarios, changing the term from 2 to 3 years and adding term limits, adjusting our meeting cadence to start in August and run through June, and clarifying the application process, the timeline, which would be a rolling application. We wouldn't have a 15th of May cutoff, which is mandated by our bylaws. It would just be an open application process. That way we're collecting applications at any time. Clarify extenuating circumstances for missed meetings, incorporating some of the Board of Education language around conflict of interest, how we establish quorum, which would be based on the 25-member, and then clarifying the non-voting members, which would be CAS and Partners for Success, Special Education Leadership Team.
And our Board of Ed liaison.
And our Board of Ed, which we cannot forget, I apologize.
Don't worry. All good.
Is there a second? Claudia, second. All right, any further discussion? Do you want to talk about the term limits at all anymore? Or are you good?
Not many people agree with me.
Okay.
I guess I would also ask, would it be better if you all chunk some of these decisions? Or you all want to make across the board, you're making changes to all 10 of these proposals?
That's for these fine folks to decide. That's why I went through them and asked if there were any questions.
I do have a question. If a clarifying question was asked about making the August and June ad hoc, but there isn't a decision right now about whether to make those ad hoc, are we voting today that we're putting those in as additional meeting dates?
Yes.
Okay, so we're not considering them to be ad hoc meetings?
Correct.
Okay.
If we want to move to suspend our rules, you know, if we get into the middle of, into the school year and we want to move to suspend our rules and sort of vacate that part of the bylaws, we do have that as parliamentary procedure through Robert's Rules of Order if the committee decides that they're feeling differently about it later on. But at this point, the motion includes extending the times that we meet.
I'd love to see if anybody else would be willing to have just the June meeting be an ad hoc meeting. But if I'm not ready, then I'll accept.
I would agree with that. If we're struggling with membership, I would just worry adding on 2 extra, because I like August. I
Yeah,
agree
I
with you,
agree.
jumping back into routine. But like, I know for my family, June is a hard month.
As Jake said,
It is. Everybody's kind of checked out, so I'm worried you might struggle to keep people here in June anyways.
Go ahead, Drew.
Just to clarify for the previous slide, the term limit, what is the limit that's proposed?
2 terms. So 6 years, you would be on the committee for 6 years.
If you did
And
2.
then you would step away for a term and then you could come back.
Okay, so terms of 3 years times 3 renewals. 2 renewals. Okay, so a maximum of 6 year for one individual.
But after
And
6
then-
years, you could take a break and return.
Right. Yeah.
You could return after that break.
Yep.
And you could remain engaged with CCAC as a volunteer and participate on CCAC activities, you just wouldn't be a voting member.
Yeah. Other boards and commissions have term limits
same
like
way.
this, yeah.
We were trying to look at what else was happening within our,
And how would that be implemented? Would it be grandfathered or what's the? Term limits would begin from, would it just be retroactive essentially?
Yeah, from the time, so as soon as these bylaw changes are voted in, according to our bylaws, they take effect immediately. But I mean, you are in the middle of your term, right? So you would have another term after that, and then if you could step away. I mean, you'd have to reapply, obviously, and go through the same process
Yeah, I'm just trying
as
to,
everybody else.
just trying to understand.
Yep.
So
good
for instance,
questions.
this is considered my first year of my term.
Mhm.
So I would finish out this term and then I could reapply for a second term. And then after that, I would have to take a break from being a voting member, and then I could come back if I so wished and made through the application process. Right now, it's every 2 years, not every 3.
Sure. How would that work? Because all of us are 2 years, whether we're up now or next year. Is that grandfathered in? So is it still the 2 years until?
So when you reapply, then it would be for a 3-year term, and then you'd go from there.
Okay. Sorry, I'm.
Yeah, so I'm in
No,
the middle
you
of
are-
my first, so I'd finish my
Great
second year,
questions.
and then I'd reapply.
I wish they were asked before this motion was put forward.
So I'm in my first year now. I finished my second year. That's the end of my current term. And then I would apply for my second term of 3 years. So I'm in the middle of my 2-year term as I was brought in. When I reapply, it would be for a 3-year term. That's how that would work.
What would happen if I'm on my, so next year will be my second year, let's say.
So you would reapply for a 3-year
For an
term.
additional-
To reapply,
Okay.
to renew, if you want to renew.
To renew.
But anyone that was brought in this year, so a new member that was made through the application, offered a position on the committee and accepted, they would start with a 3-year term. Does that make sense? Does that help?
How are you two staggered then?
She filled a partial term.
Okay.
I'm reapplying this time. I reapplied.
And so my first, what looked to most people like a year, was actually a partial term. And so my first term started this September, or this August.
Do most people feel like 3 years is a long commitment, or do you feel like you can sign up for a 3-year? Because you signed up for this and you signed up for a 2-year, do you think extending it to a 3-year would be something you would impact your decision as to whether you wanted to?
Yeah, and we base that on, a lot of members have been here on this committee for a long time, so we didn't want to sort of take away from that. And we also were just looking to sort of, given that a lot of people tend to stay, having to reapply every 2 years, it is a lot of administrative overhead for us to go through that process. So that was also a factor in the sort of 3-year term.
We also discussed like that first year, you're kind of getting your boots wet.
Yeah.
And figuring out where your niche is. And then that gives you 2 years to really feel comfortable and move into how you work within the committee, and then identify if you're up for more or, right?
Go ahead, Sarah.
So for the applicants that just came through, how will that be addressed if this were passed tonight? And then moving forward, if they applied and they thought it was 2 years, but then, you know what I'm saying, like how will then?
We'll have to deal with it. We'll have to let them know. We just had a bylaw change. It's a 3-year term. Are you comfortable with moving forward with the 3-year term? If they're not, we have other applicants waiting in the queue. If they are, then they would onboard for a 3-year term.
Have you taken the matrix have you just run the matrix? Because just I'm worried about the continuity of governance. And it seems like we have a lot of new members that would then roll off. You could lose 60 or 70% in a cycle here. So I'm just, have you done a matrix to kind of see what that renewal will do in the next 6, assuming everybody renews, right? So assuming members renew, I just perceive there's a risk of losing a large number of members at the same time, which is fine, but it could be, I don't know, it's just a risk.
Yeah, I'd argue in my 2 years that we've been here, that's been happening anyway.
Okay.
It's just sort of the reality of what the turnover is. We're not going to be able to control for that to some degree, to a lot of degree, honestly. But we can certainly run through that exercise. For people who would renew, if this moves forward this evening, it would be a 3-year term. So as long as they can continue to make that commitment, they'll be here, and there's plenty of continuity. You know, coming into this with a 2-year term, and my term wasn't a full 2-year term because my term started in October, so it was not a full 2-year term. But I'm feeling that just now I'm kind of getting a sense of how this, you know, the impact that can be made, how we, you know, connect with our counterparts. So it takes a little bit of time to sort of get ramped up in this space. And we also were thinking about that in terms of the term length. So what other discussion might we want to have?
If we oppose one portion of this, then we vote opposed to the whole thing?
Yes, that's Troy's point earlier. So I was trying to explain and
you're right.
That was what I.
Because
Yes.
that's kind of where I am.
Yes, I was trying to walk through the changes, the proposed changes, and get some feedback before making a motion. That didn't work very well, so thank you for that lesson. So we do have a motion on the floor, so we do need to vote on it. So if you want to vote it down, we will make another motion that has only parts of this included.
And that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
You guys, you can, that's the way
You have to
Robert's
live with
rules
these
work, is
rules.
you can say,
So-
no, I don't agree with all of these, and we go back, and there can be a motion to approve number 1, 2, 4, and 6, and then another motion to approve numbers 3 and 5, and then you can work on the ones that we feel need to be worked on.
Can request to have the motion amended?
Yep, you can also make that request.
Yes. You could request to amend the motion that is on, the motion that's on the floor.
So you could say that you agree with, that you would like to amend by removing number, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
I don't have to amend it, someone else.
So if you wanted to offer an amendment to the motion that's on the floor, then you would state whatever that amended motion would be. So is that something you'd like to do?
I don't know, someone might have to word it for me.
Which pieces would you like to set aside?
For me, and what I'm hearing is the term limit, and definitely the dates for June at least, from this page, number 5.
So would you want to amend the motion to accept, to only include numbers 1, 2, 3?
Exclude number
Exclude.
5.
Or to exclude number 4 and 5?
I think so. Can I see the second? Sorry.
Yes.
Thank you for that other word.
That's a good one.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I propose we amend the motion to exclude numbers 4 and 5.
Okay, so there is a motion on the floor. Is there a second? Brooke will second that for the record. All right, any discussion?
This is still part of motion 27.
Okay, any opposed? Let's do it that way. Any opposed to the amended motion? Any abstentions? Jake and Mayeli and John are abstaining, so I don't know if we have enough votes for that motion to carry. Is it 18, 17, 16?
I didn't even.
Has to,
Well, it's already 3 votes, so.
3 abstentions.
Right. And we have 18.
You have to have a majority for it to pass.
We do.
So 18 divided.
We're
9.
It's okay. We'll be rain or shine.
I thought it was of the people.
Comment.
I thought it was of the people.
All I want to do is abstain.
I know, we don't get a vote.
All I want to do is abstain from the
It's all part of the job.
All right, so can we have one conversation? So John, can you speak up?
I think you have all the votes you need to get all 5 changes agreed, approved.
Yeah, so the amended motion is to exclude the term limit and the years and the change in the months that we meet during the school year. So are you comfortable with everything except those items?
I'm comfortable with everything except decreasing the size.
Oh, okay, so that's a different thing.
I thought that would help.
Can we go back and vote on each item? That way I feel like it may be easier to have the conversations, and some people feel strongly about specific.
Yes, that's why I was trying to elicit some feedback before going into this, because voting on, 10 individual line items is quite a process. So I was trying to group things together that it seemed like most people would be supportive of.
So can I amend, Pat, to vote on 6 through 10? Because I don't think we have any discussion happening on 6 through 10. That at least breaks it down a little bit. I think, unless somebody feels otherwise. And we can at least pass.
You're asking for the motion to be amended.
Making a motion to amend the motion to pass 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
So we're gonna
And
amend.
then we can come back and discuss the other 5.
I think how it has to go, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you have to request for Tara to amend her motion.
Oh.
So Tara amends her motion and says, I'm amending my motion to, we will vote on those items in particular, second page, whatever it is, 6 through 10.
So would it be easier for us all just to vote no and say the first motion didn't pass? Because at this point, we're requesting to amend this, like.
Yes.
It'd be like strike it. You could just say, whoever was the initial person, you could say, I want to strike my motion.
Withdraw your motion.
I withdraw my motion.
Motion, start fresh.
Okay, so now that we strike that, I make a motion to pass 6 through 10.
I second that motion.
Any discussion? We knew this was not going to be easy.
This is 28. 6 through 10.
Yep.
6 through 10.
6 through 10 by Brooke. And who seconded? Okay.
Your hand went up so fast.
All right, all those in favor of moving forward with amendments 6 through 10?
Oh my God.
Okay, 1, 2. You know that if you don't vote because we don't have a lot of members, that it does affect our ability to have a quorum to actually vote on the business.
I don't feel comfortable saying yes to bylaw changes that are not gonna impact me because I'm not gonna be on the committee, if that makes sense.
Well, you can think of it that way, or you can think of it as what's good for the greater committee and the students that may replace you that come after you. So it isn't necessarily just about you personally, it's what's
Abstaining
good
is
for the
removing
committee
your
and how it
voice.
operates.
Board members vote all
Yes.
the time on things that they'll never see happen.
Right.
Abstaining is removing your
In favor. No opposed, no abstention. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
All
Sorry,
right.
I mean, not that it's gonna make you feel any better, but.
I know.
Can we strike that from the notes, though?
Yeah, strike that from the record.
Everyone has their freedom to vote. That's what
Okay.
I
I don't know, if that might be an AI hallucination. I don't know. Okay, let's move on. Claudia.
I think we don't have, I'm not sure, problems on 2 and 3.
Any concerns about full versus partial terms?
Yeah, I agree.
Partial terms, a member appointed to fill a partial term shall serve the remainder of the term vacated. Members filling a partial term shall be eligible to apply for up to whatever the consecutive terms would be after that, based on how these other votes go. But it's just clarifying that there is a partial term, and the partial term would be filled. That language did not exist in our bylaws previously. So would you like to make a motion to approve those two? Yes. Okay. So can you go ahead and state your motion?
Can I
move to approve.
I move to approve 2 and 3.
Okay, as proposed by Lila. Okay, great.
I move to approve
Is the
2 and 3.
proposed substantive amendments 2 and 3?
Yeah.
Is there a second? Ashley? Okay, any discussion? about those two. So it moves Cass to a non-voting member, which is really the biggest change. Okay. All those in favor? Okay, so we have 18 in favor, no opposed, no abstentions. All right, let's talk about the committee size.
So for those of us who are new, is our max right now is 31? Is that correct? And how many do we have on the committee?
22 currently. And the bylaws say that we can have up to 31 members. When that is filled, though, by the membership committee at the start of the school year, that establishes your quorum. And so that's the number that we have been working with to determine how many folks we need in order to conduct business. And it is essentially heading into every public meeting, the leaders of this committee never know whether or not we're actually going to be able to conduct business because of how the attendance has been. Yeah. Claudia, did you have a question?
Yeah, so that's a quorum issue, not necessarily a members committee size. Is it?
It's related.
I know it's related, but is there a way to address it in a different way? Because we're always gonna lose people, even if you put it at 25, I don't know.
Yes. So think of this in terms of having to recruit 31 members and also trying to be more in line with the size of other committees that are similarly operating like us, like the Citizens Advisory Committee, and just the management of 31 people in a meeting. We're going to be going virtual. That is going to add and have a hybrid dynamic to this, so that will add more complexity to the meetings going forward. So there's a lot of different reasons for why we were recommending reducing the committee size. Zoe?
The percentages will stay the same, like the same amount of community, same amount of parents, same amount of staff?
Thank you for asking that question. I love when people pay attention to the details. We would actually look to, I believe we said 2 student members, increase a staff member, because we feel like we want more representation from staff. And it's difficult to get and keep student members historically is what has been the experience. So setting us up for success a little bit better and having 2 student members and increase a staff member, and then the community, I think, was it the community?
I don't have it pulled up.
I just have like the pie chart in my mind, but I can't like think of it as different numbers, if that makes sense.
Yep. Bear with me for just a moment. So it would be 11 parents, 7 staff, 5 community members, and 2 student members. So no change for parents, and then 7 staff. So more staff, fewer community members, because it says 7 community members according to our bylaws. And then 2 high school is how we would get to that 25. Is there anyone interested in making a motion to reduce the committee size to 25 for all of the reasons that have been stated thus far?
I motion to reduce the committee size from 31 to 25.
Thank you, Jake. Is there a second? Stacy, second. All right, any further discussion? All right, all those in favor? All right. So it looks like we have 18 in favor and no abstentions and no objections. Okay. All right, so moving on to changing the term limits from 2 years to 3 years and adding term limits. Is there anyone interested in making a motion regarding this proposed bylaw amendment? So the way that it would read is members may serve no more than 3 consecutive terms. Members must wait 2 school years from the last consecutive term served to reapply for membership. That's just proposed language. We could certainly change that. We could decide that nobody wants to bring a motion forward on this and we can deal with this another time. It really is up to you all. Again, these are the rules that we're setting up for how we operate, so it's important that everybody understands them and agrees to them. Or at least will go along with them if they're voted in.
Remember, we do have an amendment process built within our bylaws. So even if it's passed tonight, it can be brought up again and brought to the committee with a 20-day notice for discussion and amendment.
I'm gonna hurt our feelings. That already hurts. That's where I'm at over here.
You could have sat with us while we were doing this.
I'm just noticing the hesitancy as if this is going to be forever, forever, and ever, amen, and it doesn't have to be. It can be amended if needs must.
I mean, it doesn't, I mean, I just have to say, like, I feel bad for the people who may have just put in for it, and then they find out that it's a 3-year term, and then they say, no, thank you, because of that. I mean, and I get the reason why you want a 3-year commitment, like, it makes complete sense, because it does take time to get used to it and kind of understand and then be able to be a contributing member. So I totally understand that piece, but just
Yeah, yes, and there's not much we can do in terms of, we're required by our bylaws to propose bylaws amendments, and we took them seriously, and we came forward with what we thought made sense for the full committee, and that happens to be around the time that we're also trying to onboard new committee members. So
We followed our bylaws that got us here tonight.
Yeah.
Throw that out there for you.
All right, so hearing no motion coming forward around this, we will move on. We will look at changing the meeting cadence from September to May to August to June, or August to May, if there is a motion that someone would be willing to put forward around that.
I'd like to put forward a motion to make the June meeting ad hoc.
Except the August.
Accept the August, yes. I accept the August. And very clear. And propose to move June to ad hoc.
Okay, and there's a second from Claudia. So discussion? What do we mean by an ad hoc meeting? What does that look like? Is it a public meeting? Because we would have to comply with the Open Meetings Act. We would have to advertise it, and there is a lead time. We'd have to make a decision by, I was just gonna say, we'd have to make a decision in the May meeting to make sure that we advertise the June meeting appropriately to be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. So it adds a little bit more complexity if we decide to have it as an ad hoc versus just deciding not to have the June meeting. What do others think?
And would you change your attendance?
Yeah, historically, when you guys have done ad hoc in the past, like sometimes you've done a December ad hoc, sometimes you've done an ad hoc to get ready for the recommendations and accommodations. So, but to the major issues, you wouldn't be able to vote.
Right.
It would be publicly advertised.
Yeah, there'd be no voting, like, it would be like information sharing, but no business would actually take place.
Right.
It kind of is like the subcommittees right now. You guys bring that stuff forward, but you have the ad hoc meeting.
So that's where, here's a perspective that I have. Having a June meeting gives us the opportunity, if there's something we're planning for over the summer or at the beginning of the school year, it gives us a place to conduct business and have a vote on something in June, so actions can be taken over the summer if we're not able to make those votes in May. So, for instance, maybe there's a unique opportunity to do something in August for the public in partnership with Family Support Services. Having that meeting in June allows us to make decisions about that. Whereas, if not, then we can't make,
What happens if in that June meeting there's no quorum?
Can't make,
You still can't.
have to go to August.
no.
Defines the definition, right?
Yeah.
How would the virtual option impact that? Would
We don't
the
know yet.
virtual option potentially be for voting members as well, or just for okay?
Yeah, it would be, I mean, ideally, folks would be in person if they can, but if they have to be virtual, then there is that opportunity. It's really, virtual is more for getting the public engaged in the process and showing up here and understanding virtually to accommodate folks who may not be able to come in person. That's really what the virtual is intended. It's not for all of us as committee members to then start meeting virtually. But that is an option if people run into, circumstances that need that. So the ad hoc would be something that it would not be a public meeting and we would not be able to conduct any business during that. So if folks are okay with that, we can move beyond discussion and put this to a vote.
So the vote would change the cadence of the meetings to August to May, with a possible ad hoc meeting in June to be decided at the May meeting? Is
That wasn't the
or no?
motion.
No, okay.
It wasn't that specific.
Okay.
We would have to figure that out from a standard operating procedure process, I would think.
Because you can't really say you're having an ad hoc meeting in your bylaws.
Yeah.
You can't label it as that.
So really the motion is that you guys would extend it one more meeting,
Right.
August through May.
August through May.
Yeah.
Change my
Yeah.
motion? Okay, I motion to approve, starting in August, but not to continue to June, to end in May, August to May.
Okay. So there, are you still seconding it, Claudia? Okay. Any further discussion on this? Okay, all those in favor? So we have 18, 17, 16 are in favor. Did you vote, Laura?
I did not.
Okay, so the three of us voted no.
No opposed. I mean, no abstains.
Right.
Okay.
So that motion did not carry.
I got it.
It did or didn't?
Check around, because it should, that wouldn't carry.
If the 16 were in favor and we need 18 to.
18 is quorum to conduct business. You
Right.
need a majority of the 18 to pass a motion.
Which is how many?
10,
Oh, okay, so then it did pass?
so that it would pass. Yeah.
Okay, all right, so we're going to have
August to May.
August to May.
There you go.
All right, I think that is enough for bylaws
Is that all
this
of
evening.
them? Did we get through all of them?
I second.
I love how you're using Robert's rules.
We did everything.
Get through all of them?
Yes, that was everything.
Nobody made a motion on it.
Okay, so nothing on
Nothing
four.
was decided.
We didn't do anything on the.
We didn't
We
do
didn't.
number 4.
Oh, yes, we did. Oh, no, nobody wanted to bring a motion forward on that, so we moved past it. It can be reconsidered at another time if somebody is so inclined to bring forward an amendment on that. Thank you for considering all of our recommendations, and we appreciate all of the lively debate and the thought. And we will get an updated version of this out to everyone as soon as practical. Don?
I just wanted to make a motion to extend the meeting by 15 minutes.
We, to do, sure. Okay.
Well, I'm looking at the time.
Yeah, 5 minutes. So Dawn has moved to extend the meeting time by 10 minutes. Is there a second? All right, I saw Amy's hand go up first, so Amy is a second. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, we'll extend by 10 minutes. Okay, so let's move into so our, these are the meeting dates for next school year with the exception of June 15th, so it will be August 18th, as our first meeting date. We do have the date for which we will present our Board of Education. You don't have to take pictures of this. We will send it around. We will calendar you. Don't worry.
You'll get calendar.
December 10th, we will be making our recommendations to the Board of Education. So that is the date that we need to work towards in order to prepare all of our materials and collect our feedback and synthesize that information. December, we do not meet. That will continue on as a practice. All right, member voices. Do we have any parents that would like to share anything this evening? Dawn?
Well, first, this is my last CCAC meeting because I did not reapply. It's been 4 years that I've been on the committee, and I've got to know a lot of amazing people, but not that the adults aren't great. Student voice is really what I like to hear the most, but I'm pretty sure most of you have figured that out. And you students in particular give me great hope and faith of what is to come in the future, because some things I do struggle with that. I wanted to share something with everyone, because this is how, as a parent of a child on the spectrum, but also as a professional in the field of special education for 31 years now, a child with disabilities often spends hours being taught how to interact with others. But why don't we spend time teaching those without disabilities how to interact with them? Colleen Peterson. I share this because, as you know, I can be a very staunch advocate and can be opinionated, even though most of the time I do sit and listen. Just the other day, my daughter came home and said to me, my chemistry teacher told us that if we did the scaffolded version of the test, the highest that we could get is an 85%, even if we got them all right. So my child obviously has an accommodation where there's scaffolding that is built in. And she did the right thing. She contacted her case manager. By the way, Rachel LaHouse at Linganore High School, who used to be a department chair at Urbana, is a fabulous case manager. The best one my child has ever had. She gets things done. So thank you, Mrs. LaHouse, if this is being recorded. But the fact that even after all of this time that there are general educators that just don't get it, quite frankly, just disgusts me. And there needs to be more done to support special education teachers who are killing it every day. And no disrespect to general educators, but special educators work harder and have to do more for the same amount of money. And at the bare minimum, that she thought it was okay to do that to the 3 children in that classroom that need to have scaffolds. So I'm not stopping the good fight. I'll just be fighting it in a different way. Because I'll also be starting a new position on July 1st, because I like to just, try to get kids off to college and all that good stuff all at the same time. Please continue to fight the good fight. Continue to advocate for the special education teachers that need our support, and do something to teach general education teachers that it is not their kids, it's everybody's kids. And I'll end on that note.
Thank you, Dawn. Thank you for your service to this committee, especially as a past chair, and we hope you'll continue to stay connected.
I'll still come and volunteer at the resource fair. I love that.
All right, any other parents?
I just had something real quick to share. If you've never seen it, Mike Rowe has started a new online show called Somebody You Should Know, or People You Should Know. His second one came out this week, and it tells the story of TACT, teaching autism. I've screwed it up, but it's about teaching trades to students and young people with autism to fill the gap when it comes to employment of some of the most brilliant humans you'll ever meet. And it tells the story of this amazing program in Colorado that should exist all over the country. I highly suggest you go take a look at it. It's very amazing. That's all I got.
Other parents? Community members? Students?
I will say something, and I'll keep it brief because I know we had a extended discussion about the bylaws. Keep people here for too long. But I just wanted to say thank you to the entire committee, people that helped me.
We have a water line and sewer line for
Just so you know, Dick, if you have a water and sewer line that you're gonna talk about.
It's on silent. I have no idea why I just did that.
Okay, Jake, back to you.
No, I just wanted to say thank you for everybody on the committee that I've worked with for the past couple years. Thank you to the people that helped me get my feet wet in my junior year. And thank you for the people that I continued my work with this past year. Thank you to Dawn for chairing during my junior year. Thank you to Jamie for all the work you're doing now as chair and will continue to do, I think. You're gonna stay as chair, I don't know. But anyways, I did not imagine going into CCAC or even before that, that I would get to a point where I would be confident in myself or able to speak openly about my experiences in FCPS special education and as a disabled student. And I think I have this committee to thank for being welcoming and kind of showing me the ropes in terms of what students can bring to a committee like this and what they can bring to a community like FCPS. I think the student voice is tremendously powerful, and I think oftentimes there is not enough that is done to let students know how impactful they can be, which is why I wanted to start Student Voices, and I know we kind of had our wheels spinning for a little while, and it's difficult with school and all the other things that we have to do, but I hope that we, as a committee and within FCPS, don't lose sight of how important our students can be and what kind of voice and impact they can have, not only in special education, but in general. So thank you all for the past 2 years I've been on this committee, and I look forward to seeing what you guys can do when I'm gone.
All right, Mr. Harvard. Thank you, Jake. Marnella, anything you'd like to share?
I'd also like to say thank you. I know I haven't really said much, but I've learned a lot, and I think it's amazing what you guys are doing for everyone. I know a lot of people with like disabilities, and I have family members, and I know some of them are in programs that you guys have, and I think it's really important, and it's just like beautiful to see that everyone is represented even when like not a lot of people know about it, and I just wanted to say thank you.
And where are you heading? What school are you heading to?
I'm going to UNC Charlotte.
Okay, wonderful. So you're still on this coast. And when you all are back for summer, you guys check in. All right. All right. Anything from our staff members?
Well, yes, we had a wonderful young athletes program with the adaptive PE team and the Special Olympics over at Hood College. It was last week or the week before. I don't know. I think I've been on 3 field trips in the past 2 weeks. So I'm the coordinator of our expressions programs at Urbana. And so we have multi-age. And let me tell you, every grade level is doing a field trip right here at the end of the school year. So I am taking more bus rides than I think I ever have, but it has been phenomenal to join all of our various grade levels and to have the opportunity to, for the first time for me, to go out and participate in the Young Athletes program. I've never sweat so much in my entire life, just trying to keep up with all the fun activities, but it also it was just great to see our community.
That's wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. Zoe?
At the board meeting this Wednesday is the Support Staff Award of the Year. There's 6 people up for the award, and then like from each department, and they'll get one overall. But if anybody wants to come hang out, Laura and I'll be there. Probably Nancy. You know, we'll just hang out. But it'll be nice to honor the Support Employee of the Year.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you for that reminder. All right. We do want to share with you at least a card of congratulations. So Tara has those.
We're also proud of you both, and Janelle, and we just wanted to give you a little well wish on your next part of your journey.
Thank you guys so much. This is wonderful. Thank you guys.
Of course. All right, and that can, we don't have any public comment this evening, so we don't know who our guest speaker will be, but we will be back here same time, same place, August 18th for our meeting to kick off the next school year. We will be in touch over the summer with what we're up to with the listening sessions and so forth, and look for some help around that. And then, of course, our PPMD event is coming up at the end of June, which is really exciting. And we did share around what came out of the retreat that we did have, so please take some time to look at that and offer suggestions. We'll let you know how we're going to approach the recommendations process for next year. It'll be similar online and in-person workshop type of things to make sure that everybody has a voice in that process. So we encourage you to show up. We also are looking to host a happy hour fun thing of sorts, so we'll find a date for that. The events committee has that in their backlog of things to do. So thank you all for a great year. Have a wonderful summer, and we'll see you back in August. And we are adjourned at 8:06.